And we are going live.
Audio Jungle.
And we're live. Hi, welcome to Press Radio. We have a great show today, as always. I'm Reverend Rich, and this is
Reverend Paul.
And we have special guest, Ginni Garden RScP, who has been a practitioner since 2009. 2009?
Wow.
I thought I did my research. Apparently, I just have to adjust that. But that's okay. Spirit works in weird ways. Well, we have lots of questions for you because this show is about basically doing prayer and what works. We don't care about what you experimented with and how it didn't work because we don't want to put that in spirit because spirit says yes to anything we have. So we don't want those errors. We want what works, what is bore fruit. And you said, the aha moment. So you have just real quick, let's do a plug on your, you don't have a site, but you do have a book, right?
Yes.
And what is that book called and what's it about?
It's called If Not Now, When? And it's about actually making major changes in your life. And I wrote it aimed at people that were getting ready to retire. But when I do a lecture with the book, I find people that are changing jobs, people that are having major changes. So I kind of gave it a subtitle of Looking for Your What's Next.
Wow. What's next? Well, what's next with us, Paul? Let's have Ginni do one of her favorite intro prayers because that's what we do and that's what we want to have you do.
I have one here that I like that I just did at church. And it's a quote. The quote is from Maya Angelou, who's one of my favorites. The thing to do, it seems to me, is to prepare yourself so you can be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. Somebody who may not look like you, may not call God the same name you call God, if they call God at all. I may not dance your dances or speak your language, but be a blessing to somebody. That's what I think. And I recognize that with the beauty of a rainbow, there is a promise of what is to happen now and what is to come. For me, for those I love, and for all of God's creations. I discover that as I think of the promises of the divine within me, I also see it in everyone I meet. I see myself as spirit in action, and I face what is happening in my life with a decisive and confident attitude. I cut all ties with the past that make me feel like I'm between a rock and a hard place and wake up to a fresh new vision of my purpose and potential. I treasure this present moment, the one that's coming next. And so it is.
And so it is.
What do you think, Paul?
That was good.
I thought it was good. Just flowed. You have a voice of an angel. You know that, right?
Gee, thanks. I'm actually a contralto, so I have a voice of a guy. They make me sing with the men sometimes. Anyway.
Well, we're not going to go there. So we have a bunch of questions for you. Are you ready for this?
Ready or not, here we go.
All right. So we know that you're at ocspiritualcenter.com with Jim Terrell. We know that part. Well, I'm telling your audience that. And, first person I saw when I walked into the center years ago was you. So
wow.
I said, oh, wow. Well, that I can remember. I mean, it was a long time ago. You went through your book. We did a plug on the book. And how does prayer show up in your life? I mean, what gives you that just, hey, it's a beautiful day and blah, blah, blah. And how does it show up in your life?
Well, it's actually mostly present in my life. It's become kind of a habit to always be present with God. And I love the fact that anything I see happen, like if I'm driving along and I see an accident, I immediately pray for the people that are in the accident. Or and when I'm doing consulting or whatever at church, I notice that so many of the people that come to me are having life experiences that I had. So that kind of validates the things that I've gone through in life.
So, question for you. So, your book, If Not Now, When, how much did prayer show up in that for you?
Um, it's been quite a while, but I would say that almost everything I do starts with a prayer
Hmm.
because then I don't feel like I'm doing it by myself for the first time.
Yeah, you're co-creating,
That's right.
right?
And it's what God wants others to see through me.
Well, God as you wants others to see through you
Yeah.
as you. Yeah, that's perfect.
God works through you and for you all the time, even when you don't think he is or she is. Or I actually like to call God a she, and sometimes because I just sort of like that vibe. But that's me. God could be a man or a woman, but God is pretty much neutral, as we
God
understand.
has to be both to create because you need the masculine and the feminine to create. So there you go. That's my opinion.
You stole my thunder.
And earlier, when you said mostly, so the question is, how do you stay grounded in prayer? How does that mostly part get out of your way?
Well, what happens is I can get involved in doing something and take over, like automatic pilot takes over. And then I'll reach a point where I'll go, oh, okay. So, but a lot of times, even the things I'm doing on automatic will have a service aspect to them. So I like to cook for people that are possibly sick. So I'll be in the kitchen cooking and I'll have the TV on and be watching something. But I'm still, part of God's team, I call it.
So, what tangible results have you seen from your prayers?
Well, the book is one of them. And I would say I see tangible results every day. Little things like I had two dogs and I had to have both of them put to sleep within a short time of each other. And I believe in rescue dogs. So I called the guy that found me my last dog and I said, "You don't happen to have any dogs around?" He says, "I'll find you one." So I said, this went along with a prayer, a sermon that Dr. Jim gave about don't say what you don't want. So I said, I don't want a white dog, I don't want a boy dog, and I don't want a puppy. Guess what I got? A white dog puppy.
Oh,
And
God doesn't
so
know.
his name is Louie, and he's a pistol, but he and I are good friends. So there you go. So that's part of doing God's work. I should stop rolling around. Is taking care of animals.
What
So,
do how do you prepare yourself for the day? I mean, what do you do? The
in the
morning
morning,
prayer. Yeah, the morning ritual, if you have one. If not, then
I
that's fine.
do.
All right.
I sit on the couch and I have a little prayer book that I have written down everything and everybody that wants me to pray for them. And I write a prayer for the day to set the pace of the day. But I also pray for things like world peace. I pray for our president. I pray for people that are sick that have asked me to pray for them. I pray for abundance in I'm on the board of directors for a group in Malawi, Africa, and so I pray for their crops, and I pray for the little student that I have there that's going through school, that kind of thing. There's a little bit of everything.
And over time, how has prayer changed for you?
Well, that's a good question. I was raised to be a problem solver. So when you're raised to be a problem solver, what do you see? Problems. And so I have learned through this philosophy to see the absolute wonder of life. It's amazing to me the absolutely fantastic things that I have done that I would have never done on my own without a little bit of prodding from God. planting ideas in my mind, so on.
Well, that's awesome. I just want to give a shout out to our Twitch audience and our Rumble audience. And if YouTube may have had some challenges this morning, thank you, Google. Anyways, we just wanted to give a shout out to everybody out there. We appreciate you being here. When you have a challenge, what do you do when challenges pop up in your life? I mean, getting triggered and bam, what do I do now? What do you do?
I unite with God, and I express what I would like to happen, and I ask God for the highest and best for whatever the situation is, and that's it.
Now, do you ask God, or do you just put it out to the universe? I mean, a lot of times some people
It's not ask. You're right. It's that. For instance, I have a granddaughter that's a graduate from UNLV, and she was in a job that wasn't serving her. So I've been praying for her career job to show up. So she got fired from this job. Actually, the company went out of business, and two people that are absolutely wonderful are wanting to hire her. So things like that are just, to me, wonderful. I love things like that.
The perfect demonstration.
Yeah.
Now, Paul, go ahead and ask the next question on that. I'm checking on our folks on Rumble, and they're all there.
So if you were to run into someone not knowing our philosophy, how would you explain it to them?
It sounds funny. I saw that question, and I'm not quite sure how I would answer it. I guess I would say that make yourself part of the team and realize that you are never alone and that everything is for highest and best. And just, it's actually a more positive way of looking at things than I used to have.
We're affirmative philosophy, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And that ties into what Ernest Holmes said, there's a power for good in the universe greater than we are, and that we can use. And we use it by our choices, how we think, feel, and think into things.
Well, and that's this. You asked me what my favorite book is, and I'm reading this book called This Thing Called You. I'm rereading it, and it's just a great book because it tells you who you are, reminds you who you are.
And go ahead, Rich.
So how have your prayers evolved over time? I mean, I think, I don't know your past history. You probably did other philosophies and things like that. And prayer evolves over time on how we look at it. I mean, our philosophy, we don't beg God for anything.
No, or beseech, like they used to say.
Oh, glorious.
Well, I was a Catholic for a number of years, and it really served me to be a Catholic and to raise my children that way. And in fact, my children are all still very fundamentalist Christians, and yet they still call me and ask me to pray for them. So I guess they must appreciate what I'm doing. But I don't remember the question now, but whatever.
How has prayer changed over time?
It's just, like I said, I like the concept of being part of a team and that God and I create whatever is to be created through prayer.
So God and you are the majority.
Well, when I'm saying a prayer, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I do like to bring in angels sometimes. And, I love Jesus' his promise that whatever he did, we could do. I like that idea. So.
Wow. But what have you found that works for you in prayer? I mean, we're looking for the specifics, not the run up to it. And I said this with reference. We're looking for
I basically use the 5-step prayer. I unify with God. I declare what I want to happen. There's always gratitude. I'm so grateful for the concept that I'm part of this team and that anything that is highest and best is going to happen. I guess. I don't know how else to say it.
That's cool. What's your favorite Ernest Holmes quote?
Book. Well, I would say right now it's this thing.
No,
Quote.
quote.
Oh, quote.
Yeah, you already did the thing called you. I mean,
I
you're on.
don't know that I have a definite quote that I would say is my highest and favorite quote. I mostly just internalize things and it becomes more of a sensation than a bunch of words.
What do you mean by internalized, if I may ask?
Um, I feel like I am one with God
Okay.
and that, so anything that, even finding a parking place, I've done that before because somebody told me about it and I thought, gee, that's pretty cool.
When do you release the prayer into law in your mind? I mean, is it a lot of us do the one-liners. You've been doing this a while and stuff. I mean, we could do a one-line prayer because we're already conscious that we're one with God in all things, and
Yeah.
boom, it's out there. But for somebody who just is learning, we usually do the 5 or 7-step prayer to actually explain it to them so that they have a better understanding. And for you, how does spiritual mind treatment show up in your life when you're doing this? I mean, what do you do for the one-liner treatment? Boom, I just need to make this happen now. God is, I am, that type of thing.
I don't know. It just kind of comes to me what I want to say. So it's not like I have a specific way. But when I'm writing a prayer, I always do the 5-step. And I find that I don't need the 7-step as much. Letting go of this and that. I feel like that's a given. So I don't need to worry about it. But gosh, I don't quite know how to answer that. So
you did just fine. Paul, what's the next question on that?
This is some of the ground rules of the show, but we'd like to. Oh, sorry, I'm just reading your questions, Rich. When we look in getting in touch with others through prayer, what feelings come up for you? Let's say you had to pray for your daughter, and you know her, and you're keeping her in consciousness for the knowing that you know for her.
So there's always love. Oh, there's my dog saying hello. My little white dog I told you about. There's a loving connection, and it's like we're one. It's not. I don't know whether he interrupted my train of thought, but he'll shut up in a minute.
Okay, continue from there.
Would you ask the question again? He distracted. I could close the door, but anyway.
So what is that feeling that brings you to that oneness, that unity with the person that you're praying?
I never thought about that. It's kind of just like grounding myself. It's always there. I'm one with God. It's always there. And so I come from that place.
That's interesting because when we do prayer, we're doing prayer for ourselves and knowing that for somebody else. That's we ask a question, I think show number 12 and 13 is, how do you not take on the energy? Well, you're not actually going into that person's energetic field, right, as they call it in certain philosophies. I've done other philosophies, folks, so we all have, if you've done any spiritual searching. And then a lot of times people go out and they say, oh, I got to go into your energy. But in our philosophy, we do prayer inside of here within ourselves. We're seeing that person for them, that greater good, that greater happening. And so what I hear you saying without saying is that since we do in the prayer ourselves, that energy we're not going out and grabbing somebody's energy. We're knowing that for ourselves, and those ripples change the universe around us, as I've done on different shows that we talked about, the pebble and the stone. But that's what I hear you saying. Is that correct? Or
yeah, and a lot of times, like I said, people that come to me for prayer are having an experience that I'm aware of, that I've maybe experienced. And so it's just like I am coming from within, from me.
Nice. what when you're actually sitting with somebody and they do prayer, they come up and they ask you for prayer. God says yes on that every single time, because we know their perfection. We know who they are. We know that they're individualized expressions to God. Everybody is. We're not exempt on that. Nobody is in this universe. What is it that you filled in yourself to ground yourself to actually do that prayer for somebody? Say I did on show 12, we talked about somebody coming up being the biggest, baddest, meanest looking person you ever saw. We don't let that affect us.
No.
It doesn't affect you. I mean, how do you ground yourself with that? And this is, Prayers Radio. We ask questions, even though we might know the answer.
It's funny because it's not about judging; it's about connecting. And I love doing it. I love the feeling that I have of the connection and of the fact that we are one. They're having a situation. I remember things like that. So we are one, and I'm coming from a place where I'm working with them and I'm working with myself. So
wow. Yeah, you've always been a light, a beacon, a shining light when I've come with you.
thank you.
And I just go, wow.
It's actually such a pleasure. It's one of my main gratitudes. Every day I write a list of gratitudes, and it's one of my main gratitudes being able to take the experiences I've had and use them to help somebody else.
Now, when you're writing that gratitude list, if I may ask, I know that a lot of people well, this is the bad, this is the good, this is the opposite. We don't do dualism in this philosophy. You know that.
No.
But you're just writing down that I'm grateful for the day and all these other things. And
I'm grateful for this that happened today and that I'm grateful I got my nails done. Whatever it is, I've got all these gratitudes, and it's just such a great place to be, because once you hang out in gratitude, you feel so differently about life. I used to say I worked in the field of psychology with parents of kids who had drug and alcohol problems, and it's hard to find things to be grateful for when you're going through that. And so we would work on finding things that we liked about this kid or whatever. So when you come from that place, you start noticing things you wouldn't notice if you were hanging out in everything that's wrong.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good place to come from, because what you put into the universe, we had this in conversations on 13 and 12 on the show, where people would watch, the dummy box, the TV, if you will. I call it the dummy box because I watch the TV. And, you're taking on that energy, right? You're taking on that energy of anything that you're listening to, anything that you're seeing, anything that you're doing, anything that you're feeling, anything that you're letting your mind wander to. That famous Billy Blanks, I talked about this in a previous show. If I let my mind go, where it's going to go. And, I like his book. That's the one takeaway I got from his book. I always quote it because it's like, where my mind can go. So where does your mind take you on your daily trek? When you're just going through the motions of life and every day, you're walking with people, you're making decisions.
I kind of wake up in the morning and figure out, since I'm retired, I kind of figure out what I'm going to be doing today, and I do my prayer time, and then I just live it moment by moment, because that's what works for me. Is not, if I start getting too much into, oh my gosh, I got to do this and I got to do that, then I get into anxiety, and that's not going to help at all. So I don't know whether that's the answer to the question you asked, but it's just living life moment by moment. And that's been something I've had to develop, to have that consciousness.
Do you ever get into that, as Emerson says, the dark night of the soul?
Oh, yes.
And
when something is, well, especially with, I have 4 children and 4 grandchildren, and I lost one grandson to leukemia a few years back. And so there are things that bring you back into heaviness and pain. And so in our family, we kind of concentrate on taking something negative and seeing what good we can do from it, what good can happen from that, because it makes it not so, for instance, my grandson that passed away, my daughter started an organization called Gold Rush for the Cure, and they give a personalized gift to every child that applies that's going through cancer treatment.
Hmm.
And they started it about 7 or 8 years ago. And so far, they've given out over 1,400 pots of gold to kids that are having cancer treatment.
Mm.
So that's taking something that was really a dark night and turning it into something that has a benefit.
Hmm.
Now we're getting towards the end of the show. We want to make sure that is there anything that you want our audience to take away from what just for prayer, in terms of prayer, of what would actually resonate with somebody if they talk to you on that? What would you want them to take away from this show, from the things that you've said?
Well, what comes to me is that you're not alone. You're part of this wonderful team, and that anything and everything you pray about is heard and answered.
Paul, you have any other questions?
No, but with that, could you honor us with praying us out?
Well,
Okay.
hold on. Yeah, go for that. Go for that, and then we'll do the plugs again for the sites.
I am so grateful for this time. I am grateful for the experience of being with you, wonderful souls. And I'm grateful for the reminders that you brought to me of why I'm here, what I'm up to, and how I'm part of this wonderful team. So thank you, and so it is.
And so it is.
So it is. That was wonderful. I'm Reverend Rich. You're Reverend Paul. And what's your site again, Paul?
I am spiritalive.com.
And we are
Oh, I
prayers.
like that.
Isn't that nice? You should stop
Yeah.
by it. It's got some good stuff in it. He does it for some pretty famous folks. And
Cool.
what was your book again? Could you show that to the audience one last time?
I don't know if I can get it in the right. Oh, there it is. If
Right.
not, now when?
And what
Oh,
we'll
wait a
do is,
second.
there we go.
Perfect.
And then what we'll do is we'll put it in the show notes. And yes, I have to update the show notes, but we're doing a test on some of the stuff with our ratings and things like that. It's pretty cool. So again, we thank you for being on with us, Ginni, and Reverend Paul and I are just like, woo, good stuff.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. It was my pleasure. And I'm very grateful for the experience. I really am.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you next week.
Bye.